Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and tackle the upgraded fuel pump wiring. The kit that we're using is actually the kit that is offered from Aeromotive. It is part number 16307. It is a fuel pump upgraded wiring kit which comes with a circuit breaker and a brand new relay. And let's go ahead and show you guys how we're gonna get this thing wired up. This is a simple, crude wiring diagram for this kit. As you can see, there are only 5 connections that you have to make. Starting at the top, you have a 10-gauge battery power connected to a circuit breaker. Then you will have a terminated lead with 2 black wires for your battery ground. You will then have a 12-gauge switched or trigger wire. And then lastly, you have 2 10-gauge power and ground wires bundled together for your fuel pump. In the trunk of your Fox body, you can find your factory fuel pump wiring harness and splice your new 12-gauge trigger into the factory pink and black power wire. This will make the install simple. However, there is enough length of wire to make the connection at the factory relay end if needed. You can solder this connection or use one of the provided butt connectors. You can follow this harness to the factory grommet. Poke a few holes in the grommet to pass through your new power and ground wires for the fuel pump. Okay, just to show you the finished product here of the wiring. As you can see, I have the circuit breaker and the new relay mounted on the outside of the battery box. Nice and sturdy, looks pretty good, and with the corresponding wires going to the proper leads on the battery. Of course, right here, these cables are running to under the car through the factory grommet. These will go to the new fuel pump module. Okay, so let's go ahead and pop the lid so you can see how the wires are ran to the battery itself. Alright, so for the positive battery, as you can see, we have it running under our protective cap here. This goes directly to the battery terminal itself. And you can see the terminated lead on this is pretty good size, and it'll actually fit on the larger lug as well. So that's the positive. And then for the negative, I went ahead and hooked it up. But as you can see, it actually connects directly to the tightening lug on the ground. So yeah, that's all there is to it on the wiring. Okay, we're making good progress here. Now it's time to go ahead and install the fuel pump module into my factory fuel tank. So let's go ahead and unbox the 340 liter per hour fuel pump module and see what we have to do to get it installed. So look inside the box here. Nice thing is that this thing is already pre-assembled, so installation is not going to be too bad at all. Okay, so we got a new lock ring, new termination leads for power and ground and covers, new fuel filter sock. All right, and then we have, of course, our fuel pump module. Set that aside. Okay, you can see it's already pre-assembled. Wiring's already ready to go, return. Fuel pump's already strapped in. And you can see here it's clearly marked with the positive and negative for the fuel pump. And of course our new, where we then put our new fuel fittings. Okay, so this is a direct drop-in replacement. Let's go ahead and get to work on getting the old pump out, and then we'll go ahead and install the new one. Okay, with the new fuel pump module installed, we're going to go ahead and install our ORB fittings. These are like a really tight 90-degree radius fitting, and these are going to face towards the direction of where the factory fuel lines came out. So we're just going to go ahead and do one of these at a time. Now here's the ORB. As you can see, it's got a really tight 90-degree radius on it. These do actually swivel in place, so don't get worried as they spin. You can actually spin these. So I'll go ahead and lube up the O-ring and go ahead and install it into the module. This is kind of the orientation you're going to be working with here. I went ahead and added a couple of the straight fittings on here that don't have hoses on them yet, just for point of reference. So as you can see here, I have mine kind of pointed in this direction. This is kind of where the factory lines came out, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing with mine, just kind of have them route out here through the front of the tank. But as you can see, these lines, these ORBs do swivel, so that way when it's time to tighten these lines, you can. And you can do that with ease, and then just move these to the orientation you need to. So mounting these is really, really simple. And again, these do swivel, so therefore once you get them started, don't worry, they do actually swivel, so you can tighten them to your fuel pump module.
I went ahead and attached both the feed and return side of the lines before putting the tank back into position. This allowed me to get proper length from the feed side to the fuel filter, and then allowed me to use the cut line to run the entire return side line to the front of the car and attach at the regulator. The remainder will be used to run from the filter feed side to the fuel rail. With the tank reinstalled, I also finalized my electrical connections and plugged in my factory sending unit plug.
Okay, starting from the back here, you can see where I mounted my fuel filter. But if we stick around to the back, you can see the fuel lines actually come out close to where the factory did. And then I just used some of the factory retaining bolts to strap some of the fuel lines around. We follow it back around over here. You can see lines actually run pretty close to where the factory lines would go. All the way down to where they curve. And then where I didn't have any factory locations, I just went ahead and pop riveted clamps in there. Turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy. As you can see, it swings around and then follows the pinch weld all the way to the front of the car. Okay, let's go ahead and throw the inner fender splash shields back in. Start buttoning everything up. Okay guys, we're nearing the finish line here. Got all the new lines ran, the tank back up into the car, and everything's been tightened up, double checked. So now I'm gonna go ahead and hook up power to the battery. We'll flip the key on, make sure the pump actually primes up, and we'll check that fuel pressure gauge, make sure we got pressure, and of course confirm if we have any leaks. After that, we're at the finish line, time to button everything up. So let's go ahead and put power to everything and check that we got pressure at the regulator, and also check for leaks. There we go. Okay, definitely heard the fuel pump prime, and look at that, we got fuel pressure. All right, let's go ahead and check for leaks. Okay, rails look dry. Everything at the regulator is dry. Alright, everything up front is dry. I'll take a quick peek under the car, make sure we're good there. Then, should be okay and ready to put this thing back together. Exciting stuff.
To show how I routed my lines, I used the diagram included with the Level 1 fuel system. This is the same way I did my install, and it also illustrates how all the components work in sequence. This worked great for me because it moves my lines away from all the hot components in the engine bay, and it keeps consistent flow across all 8 fuel injectors. Starting at the bottom of the diagram, you can see the feed line goes from the tank to the filter, then the filter to the rear driver's side fuel rail, then the feed line loops from the front driver's side rail to the front passenger rail. The line then goes from the rear of the passenger side rail to the fuel pressure regulator. The return line goes from the bottom of the regulator all the way back to the tank. Pretty simple and straightforward. And that completes the Level 1 fuel system installation for my Fox Body Mustang. Overall, this is a very simple kit to work with. All the components are high quality, installation was straightforward, something that can be tackled in probably a weekend with a few friends helping out. You can pick up this kit at AndersonFordMotorsport.com. If you like my content, please like, please share, and subscribe. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.